Hello there, Space Wizards, Plastic Spacemen, and Rebel Princesses. This is Todd Hoffman and Trent Hoffman, and you're listening to Big T and Little T, a Star Wars podcast. Welcome to episode 69. Today we're going to be talking a little bit about Attack of the Clones. Unfortunately, Trent couldn't join me today, but we got a lot of things to cover. And just recently, this last week, Trent started school, so we kind of took a week off, and Ellie and Trent started school, so that's pretty exciting. And we did a couple cool things, but one of the things that we did is we went to the Museum of Science and Industry here in Chicago, and they have a Marvel superhero experience. And so they have the special exhibit there, and we went the day before and to go back to school, and it was a lot of fun. Essentially, the Museum of Science and Industry is kind of I would say kind of like a discovery type museum. There's a lot of different things that you do a lot of hands-on stuff. But one of the things that they had here that we wanted to go was they had the Marvel exhibit. And so, unfortunately, you had to pay a little extra for that, but it was so worth it because essentially it gave the background of all Marvel comics and just the history of Marvel. And in that process, you get to see a lot of the cool movie used costumes, which was a lot of fun. This exhibit was totally worth it. We had so much fun. I think the only complaint Trent had was that there wasn't a lot of Deadpool. So that was the only complaint. Even though he's never seen Deadpool, he likes Deadpool as one of his characters. And so there wasn't a lot of Deadpool, but there was definitely a ton of cool stuff. They had, the Tesseract. They had, costumes from Black Panther and Spider-Man and Thor and Iron Man. They had a couple different Iron Man suits, which was really cool. Got to see the Captain America, and they even had Daredevil and like Luke Cage and some of the stuff from Netflix, which was kind of interesting too. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. They did have this one section of the exhibit where you can vote for your favorite superhero character, and they had like 20 choices. Obviously, I picked Hulk. I mean, that's my favorite. But Spider-Man was kicking tail. I think Hulk was like at the time was like 11th, but everyone gets a vote, and Spider-Man was like, no pun intended, leaps and bounds over everybody else. But yeah, it was really interesting. A lot of cool stuff, a lot of things in the exhibit that are just, it was super fun seeing some original prints. And they really kind of took you through like the process of, how it kind of started, Jack Kirby, Stan Lee, all these great Marvel people that helped kind of shape. Um, they even had the first original Marvel comic, and there's 4 superheroes introduced in there. And it'd be a great trivia question if I knew the answers right off the top of my head. But yeah, I know some. I think I know 3 out of the 4. But yeah, there's 4 superheroes that were introduced in that first Marvel comic, and they had it on display. It was so cool. And they had the Amazing Spider-Man 15, which is that super awesome cover where he's got kind of like his arm spread with the webbing, and yeah. Anyways, it was cool. So if you're in the Chicagoland area and you can get here before, I think it ends in October, I would totally check it out. Again, that was at the Museum of Science and Industry in Chicago. So we had fun doing that. Trent started football. He's really enjoying that. But yeah, it's been a fun, crazy week. And again, have to shout out to Keith and Kerwin from Father and Son podcast. We had a blast in our last episode talking about the Bad Batch and just really having fun talking through that and enjoying their company. And looking forward to season 2. I can't believe that's happening, and that's super exciting. And we are getting really close to Book of Boba Fett. So I'm really looking forward to that too. So super exciting stuff. But yeah, thanks again for Keith and Kerwin coming on. Great guest. We really appreciate them. And we're looking to do another collab with them very soon. All right, on to our main topic. So one of the things that we do here at the household is we have like family movie night, and then everyone gets to, during the week pick one movie. And so that's essentially what we try to do is like, all right, Ellie goes first, Trent, then Jen, and then myself. And so we kind of rotate. And so just this, like I would say a week or two ago, it was Trent's turn, and he picked Attack of the Clones. Attack of the Clones is Trent's favorite Star Wars movie, and part of it has to do with the accolade. And so he really, really wanted this accolade. He's been saving his money. So we went on the old eBay and got us an accolade off the eBay. And so that was a whole process, and, a couple days doing the bidding and finally kind of securing it. So he's super happy. He got it in the mail. And of course, he needs to watch Attack of Clones. So when his time came up, it was time for Attack of Clones. And I think that's what I love about Star Wars is that every time I try to look at it a fresh set of eyes and trying to pick out things I've never seen before, or just try to look for little tweaks or things that I haven't noticed, or, just try to really kind of dive into it. And so with this one, we're watching with the family, and Trent had a couple questions. And I thought, you know what? This would make for a good way just to kind of see where he's coming from, and we can talk through that a little bit. So, had a couple questions. We narrowed it down here a little bit, but essentially we have really two things. We have the A plot is Obi-Wan's trying to find out who is trying to assassinate Padme, or what's going on there, and then the B plot is Anakin protecting Padme are really the two things. And then at the end of the movie, they come together on Geonosis there, and we get the Clone Wars, or the start of the Clone Wars. So one of the things that Trent was asking is like, it's like Halo jumping. So not Halo like the video game, but Halo jumping. We have two instances where Obi-Wan, gets kicked off the assassin droid and is falling in the skies of Coruscant like it's no big deal. And then Anakin does the same thing as he's trying to chase the assassin, Zam Wessel. He just jumps off the side of the speeder and is flying through the air. So can Jedis fly? That was really kind of the question, is like Halo jumping or flying a thing with the Jedi. So there, obviously we know a lot about the Force and what we see in the movies. And there's a lot of things that they can do, like jump really far, and they can levitate, but can they fly? It's not the question. Obviously we saw Princess Leia do a little flying in The Last Jedi, as well as Kanan did a little kind of solo flying in Rebels. So it's not the question, but they were doing this kind of Halo jumping thing, and it was kind of weird. Is that a force ability? Kinda. I mean, they're controlling their fall, so it's like controlled falling, I guess, is how I explained it to Trent. So I guess it could be a force power. But yeah, it's just like these like low orbit jumps is pretty interesting. That happens twice right at the beginning of the big sequence. So okay, so the next question is, why were Anakin and Padme going back to Naboo? So as I explained, essentially it was not safe in Coruscant, and the Jedi Council, along with uh, Emperor Palpatine, Chancellor Palpatine, wanted her to go back to Naboo. For Chancellor Palpatine, the reason he wants that to happen is not only to get that time with Anakin and Padme, because he knows that Anakin's got feelings for Padme. That's why he set them up for that. But also, she is trying to stop the Republic from developing their own army. That's why she's a senator now. she's trying to stop this, and Palpatine does not want her to do that. So she's kind of ineffective. And the whole reason she was coming back to the Capitol was for the vote, and that's how the movie started. And so she is he's trying to get her back to Naboo. And the overall reason is that for protection, because Coruscant is crazy. It's a city planet, and there's a lot of things that could go wrong. They feel that with Naboo and their own security, it would be harder to essentially assassinate the Padme. One of the other weird things that they're kind of so they go, Mace tells them to go in local transport, which is, and they're supposed to be refugees. So they're kind of going on the Greyhound bus of travel to get to Naboo. Although Padme looks pretty good, and Anakin's got a little he looks a little rough, but Padme still looks kind of not peasanty, if that's a word. But essentially, they're supposed to be They're going not in their normal formal wear, somewhat in disguise to get back to Naboo. Again, this is to keep the bounty hunters, assassination attempts out of the way, and so that is what's happening there. So that was another question. Okay, the big question: what is Sifo Dyas? Okay, so this is a classic Star Wars thing where we have a name mentioned but never seen a person on screen. So Sifo Dyas is the Jedi that ordered the clone army. And say, okay, well, what do we know? Well, what we know from the encounter between Obi-Wan and Jango is that Jango really tells the truth. He's like, I was recruited off the moons of Bogda or something by Darth Tyrannus, by a man called Tyrannus. He doesn't say Darth, but Tyrannus. And again, Jango is used for the clone as the template for the clones. Um, and Jango's telling the truth. He did not meet Sifo Dyas. When Obi-Wan arrived, they were waiting for Master Sifo Dyas. When Obi-Wan calls back the old man, the old people's home, I forget what he actually says. It's like old person's room or old people or something. But essentially it goes back to Mace and Yoda. It's like, hey, did we order a clone army? And Yoda's like, oh, we didn't do it. But this has been in the works for quite some time. So, and that's pretty much all we know about Sifo Dyas. There's not really too much going on there in the movies. It's just a mention, and without any context, it's almost like a throwaway. So I can see the confusion. So what we know from Sifo Dyas now, I think in canon, the biggest thing that you could probably read is uh, Dooku Jedi Lost, which is an audio drama book that I would highly recommend, especially if you like audiobooks. This is definitely one of those. It's a full voice cast. It really gives some background on Count Dooku, but Sifo Dyas is in there because Sifo Dyas and Count Dooku are friends. So what we know is that Sifo Dyas has, in this book, he has this force ability to see the future. He has the ability to kind of see, he can see the future. And because of this, he's having these terrible dreams, and his Jedi Master is helping him kind of sequence that, but he kind of is going a little crazy. But in this process, we know that he saw that this was going to happen and that the Republic needed an army. So he went to the cloners and actually did it. He first went to the council. They thought he was crazy, and he went behind their back and I guess self-funded. It's not really in the details here, but self-funded the clone army for the Republic. He said he was and maybe he was able to siphon money. Who knows all the details? All we know is that Sifo-Dyas initiated the clone army. In that process, nothing goes untouched. So maybe he was able to do somewhat behind the books, but Palpatine finds out, and it is actually Dooku that takes out Sifo-Dyas with the Pikes, or I think the Pikes are part of this. He hires the Pikes. They take out a shuttle. Sifo-Dyas dies in the crash, and Tyrannus, who is Count Dooku, um, kind of takes over that role. And I don't know if he was in touch with the Caminos or a delegate of the Caminos, but they're getting the money, they're creating the army, they're doing their thing. So Palpatine is self-funding the clones so that he can take out the Jedi, and then he's also self-funding the Confederacy, the of independent system. So it's this whole thing. But yeah, so Sifo-Dyas is um he well, so here's an interesting thing that you want to. It says Jango Fett served as a genetic template. What we knew, this is coming from Wikipedia. Instructed the Camino cloners to add Order 66 to the clones' behavioral modification biochips, which Sifo-Dyas originally intended to be a safeguard against any treacherous orders given to the clones. But and manipulated Jedi into taking the command of the army when the clone wars erupted. Yeah. Yeah. So it really, we didn't find out too much later that it was really all a ruse from Palpatine, obviously with the Clone Wars and the with the biochips and Order 66 and all that stuff. But it really kind of came out that Sifo-Dyas saw an issue, took it on his own, which is not really the problem. It's just that Palpatine heard about it, and yeah, it's all bad news after that. So there you go. That's a big thing that gets kind of glossed over in Clone Wars or Attack of the Clones, which yeah, there's just not a lot of information. Yeah, but definitely go check out Jedi or Dooku Jedi Lost. It's so good. Oh, what do the different colors mean of the clones? So one of the things, obviously, in the Clone Wars, we get to see that the individuality of the clones is accepted by the Jedi and actually encouraged. They're not just numbers; they're people, and they get a lot of different code names. They have tattoos, different hairstyles, all that kind of stuff. Obviously, we see that kind of expunged in our recent Bad Batch, where the Empire is getting them back to being just a soldier. But when the clones first roll out, they have different colors. And so the different colors designate rank. So we have yellow for commander. So those are the ones that obviously command the whole legion. We have red that are captains. Blue are for lieutenants. Green are for sergeants. And then the white regular armor is either private or corporal. So were seriously, we only really see that play out a little bit in Attack of the Clones. It's not by and I guess it is in the Clone Wars a little bit with the yellow, but more or less in the Clone Wars cartoon, we get to see that individuality play out. So that's that there. So that's the clone. Trent had a question about the colors there. Okay, big one. Why did Padme fall in love with Anakin? So this is kind of a loaded question. It is, when you're watching a movie, you don't understand the time frame. Sometimes it feels like, oh, this is happening in a 24-hour period, or this is just like one little 8-hour window. We know that it took some time, the way they went back to Naboo and the way that they stayed at Naboo for a while, it is a couple weeks. So one of the things, again, Anakin comes on really strong on Padme, and to the point it's creepy and weird. The age difference is not as crazy as everyone thinks. I mean, obviously it's a little weird in Phantom Menace. You're like, oh well, he's kind of young and she's kind of old. Well, and really, Padme is only 13. And when we get to Attack of Clones, it's 10 years after the Phantom Menace, right? So we have a 10-year gap between Phantom Menace and Attack of Clones from Star Wars timeline, and Anakin is 19 and Padme's 24. So it's not that big of a difference, but it is a little weird in, I would say, Phantom Menace. It looks a little weird, but now Anakin and Padme are 19 and 24. Both the actors are actually around the same age. I think Hayden Christensen is a little bit older than Natalie, but at that time, I think they were 21 or 22 when they when they were doing Attack of the Clones. But anyways, 19 and 24 is the age difference. So the question is, like, why did they fall in love? Obviously, you have kind of a little, I think it's, I don't want to say Stockholm syndrome. I don't think that's the right analogy, but part of it for me is, not that Padme's a hostage to Anakin, but they are together quite a bit. One of the things that I in my headcanon is I really feel that Anakin is using the Force. Not only does he become, he's like super creepy and aggressive to her at the beginning of the film. It's a little weird, but at the same time, it's one of the things that he's obsessive. He cannot let go, and what he's saying to her is real. Like, hey, I've been thinking about you since the day we left. I mean, that's a real thing, and it's just weird how it's happening on screen. Obviously, he's meant to protect her, and there's a lot of, you could see what they're showing is the maturity level is different. Like, Padme got her head on straight. She ruled a whole nation, a planet, really. And Anakin's just like, oh, Obi-Wan told me back. He's not quite at the same maturity level. But I really feel kind of like a pheromone thing. I really think he puts on not only the charm, but I think he uses the Force to influence. He's forcing, I got no pun intended, but he's forcing his will of love to Padme, which is not natural. He wants it so bad, he almost wills it into fruition by also using the Force to, not to say that Padme is weak-minded, because we know that's not the case. She's a strong-minded, but I think, to me, it has a little inkling of, like, it. Yeah, that's kind of how I explained it to Trent. I was like, bro, I think he's using the Force. I don't know. It seems like it kind of comes out of nowhere. Even after, like, hey, lost my mother. I killed a bunch of people. I don't know why. They're animals. They're all animals, And then she's like, oh, you're cool. You're a cool guy. I like you. So it comes across a little weird. And part of it is like, maybe it's something The other thing I think of is that, Padme has all this structure and Anakin is definitely a loose cannon, and there's something attractive to that quality. Like he doesn't follow rules. She's a rule follower. So there's a little bit of that in there, but it does come across like rather quickly. And I think, that has been a major complaint in, Star Wars universe. But yeah, so there you go. Uh, the other question he has is like, well, one of the things that we kind of realized in this viewing is that we were like a minute away, 30 seconds away from Django kind of fighting himself. So, as you know, Mace and the crew show up at Geonosis. Yoda's got the clones from Camino. They kind of converge, and Django is protecting Count Dooku and the Nemodians and the inner circle of, the Confederacy here. And Django is fighting Mace. There's a Reek involved. His jetpack gets damaged, and Django loses that. But really, 30 more seconds, and the clones would have showed up, and it would have been really awkward for Django to fight himself. So, to me, that would have been a kind of a cool plot point for like a half a second to see his army in action, because they never really seen combat per se, before for this moment. But yeah, Django was really close in fighting himself. So that's not really a question, but just the observation we had. And then finally, why did they marry? So why did Anakin and Padme marry? This kind of goes back to the love thing. It's something that, there is a conversation that they have on a freighter, like what is love? And, are the Jedi allowed to love? And Anakin kind of like, well, it's in our mandate. And he's kind of just manipulating it to like, yeah, we should or whatever. It's interesting too. I've never noticed this. And when Yoda defeats kind of Dooku squirts off, and he saves Obi-Wan and Anakin. Padme's hot in the trail with another, the clone trooper, they fall, and then they get another ship, all that kind of stuff. And when they come, and here's the thing, I never noticed this. I don't know if you guys know this, but when she sees Anakin, she doesn't even hesitate. She runs up, gives him a hug, and kisses him. Yes, kisses him. Um, right in front of Obi-Wan and Yoda. So what's that all about? I just think Yoda and it's almost like Yoda and Obi-Wan, uh, you know, have a blind eye to it. And this was explored. This was explored a little bit in Clone Wars season 7, which I enjoyed too. Like just trying to sneak in those communications, and uh, I, they know, if they're, well, they didn't know they had a Sith Lord, but I think they know that Padme and Anakin have a thing. I don't know, but yeah, why do they marry? I think it is, again, they feel like this is something that they still want to have. They have it on her home planet, which is nice. It's a cool scene. R2 and C3PO are there, no big deal. I guess they could have asked them like, hey, did you record that? Or, whatever. I don't know. It's just another secret, which also is a bad thing with Anakin, like trying to keep the secret along with Padme. And we get to see that played out a little bit more in Clone Wars, but it is interesting that he decides to do that after all they've been through. I think they just want to sanctify that relationship, which is cool, but it's very quick. Everything's very quick, and there's not a lot of room of explanation. And so sometimes that's good in a movie, like, hey, you don't, but when, Trent and I are watching this for the 300th time, we have a couple questions. So yeah, so there you have it. That was some of the questions we came up with Attack of Clones. So if you have any questions about Attack of Clones or something that is tickling you, like, hey, I need to know about this, we would love to hear from them. You can email us at big T little T podcast at gmail.com. Drop us a question about Attack of Clones, and that would be awesome. So there you have it. That's a wrap for episode 69. You can find us on the socials, Big T Little T Podcast on Instagram, BLILT Podcast on the old Twitter, and then twitch.tv/Big T Little T. We're on Twitch. Yeah, and you, like I said, you can comment, tweet us, rate us on iTunes, and give us a 5-star rating. And we'd love to give you some swag, or drop us a question about Attack of Clones or any Star Wars question. That can be done at Big T Little T Podcast at gmail.com. We got those stickers we want to share with you for sure. Next week, I think we're going to be going back to Star Wars Resistance. We picked that up a while back. We were starting season 2 before Mandalorian started, way back when. So we're going to try to pick that up and get that taken care of. Finish up season 2 before Book of Boba Fett. So that's the plan there. Now remember, truly wonderful the mind of a child is, and may the force be with you always. Bye. See you later. Bye, 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 bye.